So an update on a story that we brought you last night about the federal government now reinstating the death penalty for the first time in nearly 2 decades. The decision has gotten a lot of attention, of course, from everyone from politicians and activists, even actresses, like anti-Kavanaugh crusader Alyssa Milano, who tweeted this: "Your administration just reinstated the death penalty and scheduled 5 executions of actual people. You've lost the right to pull your pro-life," you can see what's under there, "with me," she says. That getting the attention of Dana Loesch, who responded this: "One of these actual people," she responded, "sexually molested and tortured his 2-year-old daughter to death. Another slit a 9-year-old's throat after killing her grandma. Another raped and dismembered a 16-year-old before beating an elderly woman with polio to death. These criminals," she writes, "are actual animals." Dana Loesch joins me now. She's a nationally syndicated talk show host, of course. Dana, good to see you tonight. Thanks for coming back. This definitely ignites controversy because a lot of people who are pro-life are against the death penalty. So she brings up what she sees as a discrepancy here in the argument. What do you say?
I would never compare an innocent baby to that of an adult criminal who decides that they're going to, of their own volition, commit something so atrocious that there's no going back from that. I understand the concerns that people have about the death penalty, but at the same time, people need to realize that there is a reason why this punishment, this penalty, was created. It's not done so out of vengeance. It's actually done so to honor the dignity of life that was lost. And I can't compare innocent children to adults who willfully commit such heinous criminal actions. And I think that's the big difference for me, Martha.
Yeah. Obviously everybody has their own feelings about this. It's a very sensitive issue. But clearly, the actions of these 5 people are just the most heinous, horrific crimes that you can imagine. And if anybody deserves the death penalty, it seems that obviously there's very good reason that they are on the list. I want to put up on the screen some other people who are on death row. Some of these names I think people will recognize. Dzhokhar Tsarnaev for his role in the 2015 Boston Marathon bombing. White supremacist Dylan Roof, 2017, in the Charleston church shooting. He killed 9 people. And Gary Lee Sampson, who was sentenced to death the second time in 2017 for carjacking murderers. But, there is an issue that, for some time, Dana, this was not on the table. We weren't doing federal executions in this country. A lot of Americans are against it. Pope Francis has said that he'd like to see, a global end to the death penalty, that he thinks that it's inhumane. And it goes back to the question of whether or not do people, human beings, have the right to take life, whether it's before birth or at any point during life, or is that decision just left up to God?
Well, and I actually think God has spoken about it. I don't want to Bible thump right now, and with all due respect to the Pope, Romans 13 discusses it. It's also discussed in Genesis as well. And we could stay on that for a bit, but biblically it's been supported. I look back at the edict that was given to Noah, but in terms of the inhumanity or the lack of humanity for the death penalty, I think it's inhumane what these murderers do to innocent victims.
No argument
and
there.
I think that people tend to forget that sometimes in this whole discussion. A dignity of life has been lost in these horrific murders. And those examples that you gave, Martha, from the tweet that I had, that wasn't even the full body count. Those were those were just some of the victims that these men had, the lives that these men had taken.
Before I let you go, there is something very incongruous about being against, about being in favor of abortion and against the death penalty, though. What about that argument?
In favor of abortion and against the death penalty is odd to me because you're condemning one life to death for doing nothing but simply existing, and yet you are wanting to exonerate another life. That to me is not copacetic. That doesn't make any sense to me. But I hope that people, and one quick note, Martha, I understand that there's corruption in the system. We need to remove the corruption, not the justice, and I think we should support checks and balances like the Innocence Project.
Dana Loesch, always good to see you. Thank you very much for being here tonight.
Thank you, Martha.
You bet.